so good to have you in this program today. My name is Michael Oyagha, and I've been invited to talk to us today on the place of understanding your manhood. The place of understanding your manhood. Okay, all right. So we are looking at the place of understanding your manhood. The place of understanding your manhood. All right. I wrote a book that is titled "The Male Man and His Manhood." And when one of my classmates from the university saw the title of the book, he screamed and he placed his two hands on his head and he said, Oyagha, what is the meaning of this? You are a pastor and you're talking about manhood. No, now, Oyagha, now, you know. I suppose he was trying to be funny because the perspective from which he was looking at this was not the perspective that the book was talking about. I was not talking about the male reproductive organ. I was actually talking about you understanding what makes you a man. Okay, so there are two different perspectives. So when we say the place of understanding your manhood, we're not talking about the male reproductive organ. Rather, we are talking about you understanding who you are. Now, we have a lot of platforms out there where women, ladies, female folks, interact, talk to themselves, share ideas, share opportunities, business opportunities, and the rest of that. But we don't have a lot of those platforms where men can come around and then they talk to each other, one to the other, and then they share ideas and of course share opportunities. Okay, in the course of my research while I was writing the book, I discovered that when you go to Facebook, for example, and you're looking for groups for men, there are actually no groups for men on social media, as it were. The ones you will see are maybe the ones talking about football, the ones talking about alcohol. You have Manchester United group, you have Chelsea fans group, and the rest of that. But just key in a group for women, you will see a lot of groups, women helping women, once a mother, always a mother, and the rest of that. They have several platforms where they come together and then they interact. And that made me to realize that we have a huge need and there's a huge gap when it comes to men relating with men and when it comes to men understanding their manhood. Okay, so from what I saw in the course of doing my research for the book, I came to understand why we are having a lot of problems and a lot of challenges when it comes to dealing with men and dealing with the affairs of men. You see, there is this general assumption amongst men that, we understand what it takes to be a man. I understand what it takes to be a man. I'm a man, so I know what it takes to be a man. But it is not like that. That is a very, very serious assumption. And it is obvious that we are where we are right now because we are far from understanding what it takes to be a man. We are where we are right now as men because we have failed, or we are far rather, from understanding what it takes to be a man. That is why I am here to talk about the place of understanding your manhood. The place. What is that place of understanding your manhood? When you understand your manhood, it is very, very easy for you to fulfill purpose. It's very easy for you to become what you should be. Now, you ask me, so what is the place of understanding my manhood? I'll give you two answers. Number one, you need to understand the place you occupy. Every man occupies two places, two positions, two-in-one position. The place of authority and the place of responsibility. Please write it down. The place of authority and the place of responsibility. Now, the place of responsibility flows from understanding the place of authority. If you don't understand the place of authority, there is no way you'll be able to function in the place of responsibility. Now, when you talk about the place of authority, I will take you back to the scriptures. You will discover that when God made man, God gave man the ability to name every animal. And the scriptures testify that the name that man gave to every animal is the name that those animals are still bearing up to today. All right? Why is it that when you come into a gathering, into a setup, and then maybe a setup where you have all ladies or all female, as the case may be, and then a man steps in, the atmosphere of that place automatically changes? Why is this so? There is this natural recognition that the man occupies a place of authority. Whether the man has money or not, it's not the matter. Whether the man has a certificate or not is not the question. The question is, or the issue is, because you are a man, you carry that natural authority. All right? When a baby is born, why is it that it is the man that names the baby? They will have to either bring the child to the church for the pastor to name the child, or they will get a gathering and then call the eldest man in the gathering and say, okay, you name this child, or the father of the child will name the child. That shows you the place where the man occupies. All right, so I'm going to be sharing with you from my book, just some portion of the book. The reason is that when you get the book, you will see that it's a very small book. However, there are a lot of other things that I would have loved to put in the book, but just like the Bible, you can't have everything in one book. Okay, so we'll be sharing with us from some portion of the book, so that we'll be able to learn one or two things, and at the end of the day we'll attend to your questions. Now, if you read the book of Numbers chapter 30 verse 1 to verse 8, Numbers chapter 30 verse 1 through to verse 8, you will see the extent of man's authority, the extent of his authority. Now, permit me to read with you. Now, and Moses spake unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Lord hath commanded. If a man vows a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word, he shall do according to all that proceeded out of his mouth. Now, if a woman also vows a vow unto the Lord, and binds herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth, and her husband hear of her vow and her bond, wherewith she hath bound her soul, and her father shall hold his peace at her, then all her vows shall stand. Take note of that. And every bond wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand, if the father holds his peace. He said, but if her father disallow her in the day that he heareth not any of her vows or of her bonds wherewith she hath bound her soul, shall stand. And the Lord shall forgive her, because her father disallowed her. The Lord shall forgive her, because her father, the man figure in her life, because she's a youth, she's still staying with her father. Her father has disallowed the vow that she made to God. God recognizing that the father is a man of authority and a man in authority, because God placed the father in that position of authority. God will agree with the father for disallowing the vow that was made by his daughter. And if she had at all an husband, the second phase now, if she's married, if she had at all an husband, when she vowed and uttered out of her lips wherewith she bound her soul, and her husband heard it and held his peace at her in the day that he heard it, then her vows shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband disallowed her on the day that he heard it, then he shall make a vow which she vowed, and that which she uttered with her lips, wherewith she had bound her soul, of none effect, and the Lord shall forgive her. And the Lord shall forgive her. So the father a man in the place of authority, the husband as a man in the place of authority has the power